In late 2025, President Trump launched Maximum Pressure 2.0, a dramatic escalation against Venezuela's Maduro regime. The U.S. aimed to isolate Maduro, cut off his financial lifelines, and force a transition of power. This new phase combined sweeping financial sanctions with a visible military buildup in the Caribbean. The Treasury blacklisted key Maduro allies, while U.S. warships and troops enforced a blockade, intercepting ships and tightening the economic noose. Supporters argue only overwhelming pressure can dislodge Maduro, but critics warn this risks military conflict and deepens Venezuela's humanitarian crisis. The world is divided. Some back the hardline approach, others condemn it as reckless and harmful to ordinary Venezuelans. The campaign marks a volatile new chapter in U.S.-Venezuela relations. At the heart of Maximum Pressure 2.0 is Venezuela's oil industry, the regime's main source of cash. The U.S. imposed strict sanctions on PDVSA, oil tankers and shipping firms, crippling Venezuela's ability to sell crude. Foreign companies risk U.S. blacklisting if they buy Venezuelan oil, driving exports to historic lows. U.S. forces have seized oil tankers at sea, depriving Maduro of millions and sending a warning to shippers worldwide. Chevron remains the lone U.S. company allowed to operate in Venezuela, under a special license to recover debts, an exception that draws criticism. These measures aim to starve the regime of revenue, but also spark debate over their effectiveness and humanitarian impact. The oil war is central to the U.S. strategy to force change in Caracas. The military blockade is the most controversial part of Maximum Pressure 2.0. U.S. warships and aircraft patrol the Caribbean, officially to combat drug trafficking allegedly tied to Maduro's regime. The U.S. has designated Venezuelan officials as terrorists and conducted deadly strikes on suspected smuggling boats, resulting in dozens of deaths. A major explosion at a Venezuelan dock marked the first public U.S. military strike on Venezuelan soil. Critics, including UN experts, question the drug narrative, arguing the blockade is really about enforcing oil sanctions and destabilizing Maduro. Supporters see it as necessary to stop illicit trade and weaken a hostile regime. For many, the blockade is a dangerous act of aggression that risks direct conflict. The region is now on edge, caught between law enforcement and gunboat diplomacy. Despite the blockade, Venezuela has adapted with creative evasion tactics. A shadow fleet of unregulated tankers, using fake documents and switched-off trackers, smuggles oil, mostly to China's independent refineries. By late 2024, over 80% of Venezuela's oil exports moved through these secretive channels, keeping Maduro afloat. Venezuela also turned to cryptocurrency, demanding oil payments in USDT to bypass the global banking system. The U.S. has responded by tracking and freezing crypto wallets linked to sanctions evasion, escalating the digital cat-and-mouse game. New technology offers Venezuela a lifeline, but also opens new fronts in the economic war. Both sides are constantly adapting, making sanctions enforcement a moving target. The real cost of Maximum Pressure 2.0 is borne by Venezuelans, as the economy collapses and shortages worsen. Critics call the sanctions collective punishment, arguing they hurt ordinary people far more than the regime. In response, grassroots movements have emerged, building local food networks and vowing to resist foreign intervention. The U.S. sees Venezuela as part of a broader strategy, using maximum pressure tactics against adversaries like Iran. The crisis in Venezuela is now a global flashpoint with risks of regional war and humanitarian disaster. The U.S. bets on force to achieve regime change. Venezuela relies on evasion and resilience. The world watches, debating whether this is a path to democracy or a reckless gamble with devastating consequences.